This is about what I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this?
Hold on to your seats, because Stephen A. Smith just dropped an absolute bombshell that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. According to Smith, Caitlin Clark has reportedly quit Team USA after the shocking decision to leave her off the Olympic roster. Let me be clear, this isn't just some wild internet speculation anymore. We're talking about the loudest, most influential voice in sports media, confirming what so many people already suspected. Clark is officially done trying to seek validation from a system and from people who, it seems, never wanted her in the spotlight to begin with. The golden girl of basketball, the one who is supposed to change everything, has gone completely silent, but the fallout from this decision is absolutely deafening. This move fundamentally changes the entire landscape of women's basketball moving forward. So I have to ask you, do you think Caitlin Clark made the right decision by walking away from Team USA? Or do you think she should have stayed and fought harder for her spot? Drop your honest opinion down in the comments.
She's white. And because of that, when you consider some of the hard times other people gave her, they were resentful of the fact that this white girl came on the scene where there was a bunch of sisters that preceded her, spanning decades, that were big time, that deserved a lot of credit. I mean, people looked at the Cheryl Swoops of the world, the Maya Moores of the world, and others, and they said, yo, there was a bunch of people that came before her that did big things for the WNBA. I respect it. It is right. I appreciate it. But whiteness does have its privileges, especially when you got a game. And what a lot of people weren't willing or were a bit reluctant to appreciate was the game on this young white sister of ours. She can ball. And oh, by the way, she was a great ambassador for the game. And by the way, she came in there and looked out for everybody else. For 22 years, they couldn't get chartered flights. That sister got there and it was done in 2 weeks. That's who.
You have to understand who Caitlin Clark is, and more importantly, who Stephen A. Smith is in this equation. Stephen A. doesn't just make noise simply for the sake of getting attention. He's a master at it. But when he commits to a narrative this hard, with this much conviction, it signals that something incredibly significant is happening behind the scenes. His recent fiery commentary about Caitlin Clark and Team USA isn't just him criticizing a simple roster decision. No, this is much bigger. He's effectively staging an exposé of a deep-seated systemic dysfunction within the world of women's basketball, a problem that has been festering under the surface for years and is now violently exploded into the public view for everyone to see. Think about it. The Olympic roster announcement was supposed to be a routine, run-of-the-mill event. USA Basketball releases the names, the fans react for maybe a day, and then everyone just moves on to the next sports news cycle. But that's not what happened this time, is it? Instead, when the leaks started to drip out, confirming that Caitlin Clark, the one woman single-handedly selling out entire arenas that had been gathering dust for decades, was left off the roster, the public reaction wasn't just confusion. It was pure, unfiltered rage. The entire basketball community, from die-hard fans to casual observers, simply could not comprehend how the most popular, most electrifying player in women's basketball today wasn't making the cut for the Olympic team.
What the hell is going on with WNBA that they cannot handle all this attention that they're getting, as well as the hate and anger towards Caitlin Clark?
When it comes to Caitlin Clark, now I've taken hits because I was calling it from day one. You got people that are resentful towards her. It's really not about her, guys. It's about what she represents. Before she ever came along, there were a lot of outstanding basketball players who happened to be black females that was doing their thing on the WNBA level, and they never got this kind of shine. This girl, the Golden Goose, comes along, and she wreaks havoc. She's a star caliber player who draws this attention, and maybe it's because that fan base that she has and her being a young white lady contributes to it. So what? Benefit from it.
The official explanation that came from the selection committee felt incredibly weak right from the very start. They started throwing around phrases about experience requirements and the supposed 3-year commitment needed to be part of the core group. Now, on paper, that might sound logical, even reasonable, if you don't know the full context. But here's the problem. That explanation completely and utterly ignores the reality of what Caitlin Clark represents for the sport right now. Let me put it this way. You don't leave Michael Jordan at home because he's new to the league and needs to learn the ropes. You don't bench Tiger Woods because he hasn't paid his dues for long enough. When you have a generational talent, a true phenomenon, you take that talent, you take the biggest draw, and you put them on the plane to the global stage. That is precisely how professional sports operate when they are functioning properly and want to grow. But this is where the story takes a turn and becomes genuinely disturbing. Insiders quickly started leaking information that suggested this wasn't some simple oversight or a mistake based on a merit evaluation. Oh no, this was a deliberate, calculated message being sent directly to Clark and her supporters. Sources close to the selection process revealed deep concerns about how the veteran players would react to Clark's massive presence. The committee was apparently terrified of the circus, as they called it. The non-stop media attention that follows her absolutely everywhere. Essentially, what they did was prioritize protecting the delicate feelings of established veterans over actually growing the game and maximizing the team's global marketability. And this, right here, is exactly where Stephen A. Smith drew his line in the sand. He didn't just disagree with the decision, he called out the fundamental, mind-boggling stupidity of prioritizing comfort over fierce competition and basic business sense. Smith went on national television and systematically, piece by piece, dismantled every single justification the committee tried to offer. His argument was devastatingly simple and, frankly, impossible to refute. The Olympics is a global showcase that happens only once every 4 years. It is the one single moment when casual fans, the ones who normally ignore women's basketball, actually tune in to watch. The sport has been struggling with viewership for decades, despite producing some of the most incredible talent on the planet. And then suddenly, you have a player who is bringing in millions of new eyeballs, setting television viewership records, and selling out arenas in cities that couldn't give away tickets for free the previous season. And the committee's response to this gift? They chose to leave her at home.
But are we really trying to grow the game? Because this is the most popular women's basketball player in the world, and it ain't close. They had to move the Mystics game to an NBA arena. Name the time. And I'm going to turn it over to you because I don't want to get long-winded. I want somebody, one of our women colleagues, Stephen A., to tell me when a WNBA game has had to be moved because of a woman player. Just one. Just tell me one. Because I know in her attendance, she's averaging about 17,000. All the other WNBA games in which she's not a participant average about 7. So are we really trying to go the game? Is that what we're really trying to do? Or are we just talking about we're trying to grow the game and just bulljive it?
Stephen A. Smith argued, very forcefully, that this was a marketing disaster of truly historic proportions. He pointed out a critical fact that many people overlook. For Team USA women's basketball, the Olympics isn't really about the struggle to win gold medals anymore. Let's be honest, they win the gold almost automatically, regardless of who is on the roster. The talent gap between the United States and the rest of the world is so absolutely massive that they could probably send a B team of college all-stars and still dominate the competition. Therefore, the actual primary goal should have been something bigger, growing the game, expanding the brand, and bringing new audiences into the world of women's basketball on a permanent basis. By excluding Clark, Smith argued that the gatekeepers of the sport proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they care more about maintaining their internal hierarchy and protecting fragile egos than they do about the actual success and long-term growth of the league. He went even further, insinuating that there's a level of incompetence running the show that is almost impossible to comprehend unless you start to factor in the possibility of deliberate malice. They didn't just miss a golden opportunity, they actively and consciously rejected it. And according to Smith, this level of disrespect is something that Caitlin Clark is not going to forget anytime soon. He hinted that the bridge between Clark and USA Basketball might already be burned permanently, and that Clark's camp is taking detailed notes on every single person who stayed silent while this entire fiasco unfolded.
But the WNBA does. You got a max salary at $250,000. You had attendance, although it was trending in the right direction, certainly wasn't where you wanted it to be. And as Shannon pointed out just the other day, you got a team in the Indiana Fever with their struggling selves, struggling to win a damn game and be relevant. No team in the WNBA was worse other than the winless Washington Mystics, okay? And they went from 4,000 in attendance to 17,000. This girl is box office. I said a rising tide lifts all boats. What you do, especially if you're Team USA and you're trying to be globalized, and there's an opportunity to globalize the WNBA brand. So people like Brittany Griner, you know, God bless her soul, and others don't have to go to Russia in the off season.
Now, if we're going to be completely and brutally honest about why Caitlin Clark isn't on a plane to Paris right now, we have to address the giant elephant in the room, the jealousy factor. It is the one narrative that the WNBA establishment desperately wants to avoid discussing in public, but it's also the only explanation that makes all the confusing pieces of this puzzle fit together in a way that makes logical sense. The warning shots started firing long before Clark even played her first professional game. You had Diana Taurasi, undeniably one of the greatest players to ever compete in the WNBA, making her now famous comment that reality is coming for Clark. The phrasing of that statement sounded less like helpful veteran advice and much more like a thinly veiled threat. Then you had Cheryl Swoops, another absolute icon of the sport, incorrectly questioning Clark's college records and suggesting she was only dominant because she took an excessive number of shots. The criticism felt intensely personal and strategically targeted rather than objective or analytical. So you have to ask yourself, why were these legends so pressed, so bothered by a 22-year-old who hadn't even stepped onto a professional court yet? Why were they actively trying to diminish her incredible accomplishments before she even had a chance to prove herself at the next level? The theory that Stephen Smith has alluded to repeatedly is quite straightforward. The old guard deeply resents the unprecedented level of attention that Clark receives. Think about it from their perspective. These veterans played their entire careers in nearly empty gyms. They flew on commercial airlines, crammed into middle seats. They ground out grueling professional careers for minimal pay and with virtually no mainstream recognition. And now, here comes this young woman from Iowa, who has private jets waiting for her on the tarmac, Nike deals worth tens of millions of dollars, and fans lining up around entire city blocks just to get a glimpse of her before she's even played a single professional game.
You make decisions, marketing. I want people watching. I want eyeballs. I want advertising dollars. Why? Because he'll get paid. Y'all will get paid. And guess who else will get paid? You see where I'm coming from? That's what it's about. Stop acting otherwise. We know this. You don't sit up there and pass on Caitlin Clark. It was stupid, Team USA. It was a dumb.
It's completely understandable, even a matter of human nature, to feel a little envious under those circumstances. But in the world of professional sports, veterans usually embrace the hotshot rookie who brings a tidal wave of money into the sport, because a rising tide lifts all boats and everyone benefits financially. When Tiger Woods exploded onto the golf scene and single-handedly transformed that sport's popularity, did the other golfers hate him for it? No. They thanked him, because he tripled their prize money and brought massive new sponsorship deals to the entire tour. But in the WNBA, the reaction has been the polar opposite. It feels like certain players want to punish Clark for her popularity rather than capitalize on it. That pervasive toxicity is exactly why Clark might be secretly relieved that she didn't make the Olympic team. The resentment didn't just stay confined to press conferences and snarky social media posts either. It spilled onto the court in ways that raised very serious concerns about player safety. If you've been watching the games closely, you've noticed that Caitlin Clark gets hit differently and more aggressively than other players. We're not talking about tough, physical defense that's within the rules of the game. We are talking about blatant, non-basketball plays that cross clear and obvious lines. The Kennedy Carter incident became the most visible and shocking example. Clark was completely blindsided with a brutal hip check, while the ball wasn't even in play. Carter then appeared to say something nasty to her and knocked her to the floor in what looked like a deliberate, premeditated cheap shot. But what's truly telling is to examine the reaction from the league and from other players. Did the WNBA suspend Carter immediately to protect their biggest asset and send a message? No. Did veteran players rush to Clark's defense and call out the wildly inappropriate contact? Absolutely not. In fact, many players and media personalities seem to justify it. They called it a welcome to the league mentality. They said Clark needed to toughen up and just accept this kind of treatment. Stephen A. Smith correctly pointed this out as a massive and obvious double standard. If this were LeBron James or Steph Curry getting cheap-shotted by a lesser-known player, the league would hand down immediate and severe suspensions to protect their most marketable asset. But with Clark, it felt like it was open season. This connects directly to the Olympic situation. Why on earth would Clark want to board a plane and spend an entire month in a foreign country with teammates who either actively participated in this treatment or just stood by silently and watched it happen? The Olympic roster is composed of the very women who have been making Clark's professional life a living hell for months. The trust is completely and utterly gone. You cannot build genuine team chemistry with people who seem to actively want to see you fail, or even worse, get hurt. The environment would be toxic at best, and potentially dangerous at worst. This brings us to the most explosive part of this entire situation: the rumored soft quit. After the initial roster was announced and the public backlash reached deafening levels, there were reports that USA Basketball might offer Clark an alternate position. Basically, she would be on standby in case of an injury. It's a pathetic consolation prize designed to let the committee save face by saying they still value her without actually giving her a real roster spot. But sources close to the situation suggest Clark had absolutely zero interest in being someone's backup plan. The rumor circulating in basketball circles is that she politely but firmly communicated that if she wasn't considered good enough for the main roster, she had no interest whatsoever in waiting in the wings, hoping for one of her colleagues to get injured just to give her playing time. This is what constitutes the soft quit. Clark didn't hold a dramatic press conference. She didn't throw a public tantrum on social media. She simply and quietly withdrew her availability. Stephen A. Smith's recent commentary strongly supports this very theory. He implied that Clark has now fully realized her immense power and leverage in this situation. She is the economy of the WNBA right now. She doesn't need Team USA to build her personal brand. Team USA desperately needed her to build theirs and to boost their flagging television rating. By walking away and taking the month to rest her body instead, she's effectively communicating that the committee made their bed, and now they can lie in it. It's a brilliant power move that demonstrates remarkable maturity and keen business sense. And it's driving the establishment absolutely crazy because they expected her to beg for the alternate position. They expected her to show gratitude for whatever scraps they were willing to offer. Instead, she's taking a well-deserved vacation while they play in front of television audiences that will likely be half the size they could have been with her electrifying presence. Let's just talk about the numbers for a second, because quantifiable data doesn't lie about impact. The Clark effect is absolutely real and completely measurable. Games featuring Caitlin Clark are drawing viewership numbers the WNBA hasn't seen in over 2 decades. We're talking about staggering 300 to 400% increases in ratings compared to games without her involved. When Clark plays, arenas sell out completely. When she visits opposing teams, those organizations often have to move their games to larger NBA arenas just to accommodate the overwhelming crowd demand. She is literally a walking stimulus package for the entire league. Stephen Smith hammered this economic point home repeatedly. The Olympics is fundamentally a television product. NBC paid enormous, eye-watering sums for the broadcasting rights. They want, and they desperately need, strong ratings to justify that massive investment. By leaving Clark at home, the selection committee essentially lit millions upon millions of dollars on fire. The revenge here is completely passive on Clark's part. She doesn't have to do a single active thing, she just has to stay home and rest. When the Olympic game ratings come in, and they're significantly lower than random Indiana Fever regular season games from June, the point will be proven without her ever having to say a single word. This cold, hard financial reality is what makes the selection decision so genuinely baffling. It's not just a questionable sports decision, it is objectively terrible business. In the world of professional sports, losing money is typically the one unforgivable sin that gets decision-makers fired. Yet somehow, this committee made a choice that actively damaged their own financial product. And finally, we need to address the toxic culture that allowed this entire situation to develop in the first place. there's a growing narrative among fans and observers that the WNBA has a serious mean girl problem. It operates like an exclusive clique or sorority where you must be initiated, and that initiation process is intentionally brutal. For years, the league has been an incredibly tight-knit community. Everyone knows everyone. They play overseas together during the off-season. They share a collective struggle narrative. Clark represents something completely different. She represents mainstream acceptance. She represents the casual fan demographic, and the insiders seem to genuinely resent casual fans. You see this attitude constantly on social media. WNBA purists getting angry that new fans only care about Clark. They post things like, "We've been here for years, supporting the league. You need to support all the players, not just her." And while that is a technically valid point about recognizing all talent, the delivery is consistently hostile and unwelcoming. Instead of rolling out the red carpet for new eyeballs and new revenue, they're interrogating people's credentials and gatekeeping who gets to be a real fan. So yes, Stephen A. Smith just confirmed what everyone deep down suspected. Caitlin Clark is done with Team USA after they chose egos over excellence. She flat out refused to be an alternate for people who never wanted her there in the first place. This is a massive power move that changes women's basketball forever. The committee killed their golden goose, and the dismal ratings will absolutely prove it. Do you respect Clark's decision to walk away? Comment below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more breaking sports news.